there. I'm about to ruin my reputation as a calm, sensible, housewifey, motherly, grandmotherly type, and especially as a vegan. I said I would not talk about this problem that I had in the past, but I decided it might help someone. You may be able to relate to some part of it if you've had any kind of a problem. Or you may just go, wow, she was really messed up. Glad I wasn't as bad as her. Or you might say, wow, she was really messed up. I have hope. There's hope for me. You know, I'm hoping that somehow telling my story will help someone. This is a true story of my life 37 to 27 years ago. It covered a 10-year span. I probably won't talk about this much more. It'll be, you know, this one video or video series, however I do this. So please, pay attention. You've probably seen this picture of me. I've shown it a few times. Let's see. I'm pretty certain you can see me if I do that. This is when I was 16. It was a golden time, of course. Everyone thought I would be a great success. I had a beautiful operatic voice that could go up to the high notes on the piano, like Mariah Carey, but with a much fuller tone. It was really beautiful. And everybody thought life would be a breeze for me. Well, when I was about 17, I gained several pounds, and I went from size 116 to size 140. Not size, I'm sorry, pounds. You know, 116 pounds to 140 pounds. I would have been really big the other way. So I was pretty miserable. My mother was on Weight Watchers all the time, and so I thought that I would do that too because I was really familiar with it. And I did lose all the pounds, but at that time the diet was legal foods and illegal foods. And I only ate the legal foods. And even after I lost all the weight, I never ate any illegal foods. I just ate more of the legal foods to maintain my weight. Illegal foods were bad. You know, they would make me fat. That was the mindset I started to get. And it never occurred to me that the only reason I got fat in the first place because, you know, I ate too much. That's all. At age 18 and in college, some really weird things started to happen to me. My face and body broke out in probably the worst case of acne that you have ever seen in your entire life. I mean, I had a beard of acne. I had it everywhere. I was on antibiotics for a good share of my life. I was on Accutane 4 times. And I still have scars and big pits. You will never see a video of me with just my face. You know, those people that just have the faces. That's not going to happen. I won't get that close to the video camera. But anyway, I became very self-conscious at 18. Also, remember, if you know anything about me, my voice had been ruined by a tonsillectomy I had at the end of 16 years of age. And I could no longer sing beautifully like that. The tone changed. I didn't have the range. Everything changed. The muscles were tighter. Cracked uncontrollably. So I started to realize I was not going to be special. I was not going to be anything except not even average. I felt like I was going to be below average. And it really felt bad. I hated it. I couldn't find a major to fit me in college. I couldn't find a career I wanted to go into. It pained me to see all these other immature acting girls. They'd go out and they'd get drunk and they'd goof around and they'd be catty. And they had boyfriends and they hung out together. And I just thought, oh, they're just so immature. I just don't understand it. But what really upset me was they also had jobs and could handle college and jobs. And they had friends, and I really didn't. I just didn't seem like I fit in. And it did really bother me. Nervous problems started for me. And a little bit of depression. I went home, and my parents put me on some depression medication. The very first night, I tried it, and the reason they put me on was because, you know, I had been crying quite a bit. And the very first night, I hyperventilated most likely because I didn't really want to be on the medication. I was nervous about it. I remember being in my room, and all of a sudden, screaming, and my parents came running up, and I was like, my hand, it keeps getting bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller, and the shadow on the wall gets bigger and smaller of my hand, you know, so they took me off the medication, and they said, you don't need that depression medication. And I said, you're right. One day at college, my roommate offered me a candy bar from a big bag of Heath bars that she had, but they were little Heath bars, And after she left, I decided to try one. Now keep in mind, this is the first illegal food that I'd had in a couple of years. So I ate this little candy bar, and then I noticed she had an open Coca-Cola sitting there, a bottle, something I never ever have done in my life. I took somebody else's Coca-Cola, and I wiped off the top, and I took a swig to wash down the candy bar. And then all of a sudden I worried about it. I am going to get fat. I'm going to get fat. What am I going to do? I can't eat like this. I wonder if I can throw this up. So I went into the bathroom, and it was all too easy. I just threw it up. You know all those shows where they show people like cramming toothbrushes down their throats or their finger down their throats, and they're gagging, they're making these awful noises, and you know, it's all messy and everything, and they walk out of the bathroom going like this. It was just like, tighten some stomach muscles, comes up very neatly, doesn't make a noise, too easy. Thus began 10 years of binging and vomiting. Don't try it, by the way, because you could become addicted to the vomiting part, and it will ruin your health. Now, keep in mind that I thought drinking was bad, and smoking was bad, and drugs, and I was very moral. And yet, I started taking things. I started with just food. I started taking people's chewable vitamin C's, you know, anything like that, because you see, food is justified somehow because I needed it. You know, you need food. You know, it's not like it's something immoral like drugs. So I did know I had a problem. I did not know what it was. Back then, we did not know the name of it. I didn't know it was called bulimia, or I guess it was like the good girl syndrome or something like that. I don't know. And it's really embarrassing because I was not poor. I was not disadvantaged. I wasn't rich either, but it wasn't anything like that. I hadn't had a hard life, and I messed my life up. You know, why would I mess my life up like this? It's really weird. The only thing that gives me comfort is that they call it a psychiatric disorder. So I look at it as I really couldn't help it. I was off. I started getting panic attacks to the point that I'd almost pass out from hyperventilation. It's scary when you're driving a car, by the way. I had to drive a car to the hospital when I was having one of these panic attacks so badly. I thought that, because I didn't realize it was hyperventilation, I thought I was having a heart attack. So I went to Foot Hospital, and they hooked me up with the EKGs, and I was fine except for the hyperventilation. So, the hyperventilation occurs to this day, by the way, because it's a habit somehow. And also, if I get really nervous, I will hyperventilate. But it could, if I just think about breathing incorrectly, it could start up. It could start up right now. Who knows? But I have learned to control it. For me, this works only for me. It does not mean that, you know, it's going to work for you, and this is not medical advice. But if I start feeling hyperventilating and dizzy, I just breathe. I make a very, very little hole where I have to really pull to get in some oxygen, and I can't get in quite as much as I need. Because you see, hyperventilation, you have too much oxygen in your blood to begin with. So, and finally you're like, just really try to get the oxygen in, and it seems to reset it for me. That's just me. Anyway, let's see, what else did I want to say? Back to the bulimia. I think I had more of a problem than most, but then again, most bulimics think that they have the worst case in the world. You know, that's what I had read. My binging was not due to emotions. It wasn't once a week because, you know, I broke up with anybody. I didn't have a boyfriend, or an argument with somebody or anything like that. It was simply anywhere from once a day minimum to up to 40 times a day at the very worst. Yes, I'm lucky I did not die due to electrolyte imbalances. Karen Carpenter died somewhere during that time. Sometimes I thought I would die. But you see, I always tried to end the binges in a healthy way. Healthy because I was into health. I jogged, I was out there, and while I'd be out there running, I'd be trying to think of how I'm going to solve this problem that I have. And, I also lifted weights, I swam, I biked, I did the works. And in fact, 3 years of the 10 that I was bulimic, I was vegetarian. I was a vegetarian bulimic because I was into health. I know, vegetarian for my health at that point. It wasn't animal rights, I was vegetarian for my health. I hope you're just like really amused in a sick way, because it is sick. And sometimes you have the choice of laughing or crying. And I did a whole lot of crying, believe me. So let's just get into how could I throw up so much, because I just mentioned that I threw up anywhere between one time in a day to up to 40 times in a day. How could someone do that? Well, mine was more habit-oriented. I would eat too much and then vomit it up, and then I would drink water to wash out what was in my stomach because I didn't want it to get absorbed. Oh my gosh, I didn't want to get fat. So I would drink water, and I'd do it over and over. So I'd be drinking water, throwing it up, drinking water, throwing it up. So I'm counting those as, vomits. And so I just kept doing that, and then finally some bile would come up. And then I was like a little worried, what did I do to myself? I've got bile coming up, so I would have to wash all of that out, so I drink and throw up a whole lot more times. And then finally I decided everything is nice and cleaned out, and I would go and eat some green beans or something because I wanted to be healthy, and you want to have something on your stomach, right? So I would eat some green beans, and hopefully it was all right, but sometimes, I would eat too many green beans, and then it's back to the bathroom and do the same thing and do it over again. And then, later I might go out to a restaurant after, I did studying in between, I did, knitting, I did exercise, but then, I might go out to a restaurant and, have some problems there, of course. And then usually bedtime, I had a bedtime snack, and that was just fine, I don't know why. But then in the middle of the night, I would wake up and I would eat way too much and vomit. That 3 a.m. was becoming a habit. Sometimes I called my parents and I said I needed more money because, food in restaurants cost money, What a strain on them, really. But I really thought that I was trying, sincerely. I did cry a lot. I tried very hard to end the problem. I was convinced that I could solve it myself, but all my efforts would end if I just went into a store. It was like an addict. Your palms would actually sweat, and you'd feel driven to go to the bakery aisle, and I'd buy a big thing of sugar, a big thing of butter and brown sugar and chocolate, And one time a cashier asked me if I worked at a bakery. Things I tried to end it. Well, this one I didn't actually try. I actually got set up by my roommates, and I do appreciate that, actually. They told me that I had a gynecological appointment that they had set up for me. Well, I didn't ask them to, and I thought it was a little strange, but I thought, well, it's about time for the yearly, so I went, and it turned out he was either a psychiatrist or psychologist. And so I sat there and I talked to him for an hour, and he did the usual things that they do, talked about my childhood. And my childhood was great. There was nothing wrong with it. And I sat there, I kept telling him, I kept saying, there's, nothing wrong with my childhood. And then I put on my really smart face and convinced him that I was almost over this bulimia. I mean, it's like, I'm going to be over it any day. I've got it handled. I know how to solve this. And so he did not have to worry about it. And so he felt kind of useless. And at the end, as I was ready to leave, he said, Barbara, have you ever made love under the stars at night? It's really a beautiful experience. And I said, thanks. Well, that was helpful, wasn't it? I did not go back to him. Other things I tried. I went to a church and I asked a minister to show me pictures of starving children because I thought I'd feel guilty and stop overeating. And he did not know anything about bulimia. Like I said, most people didn't. We didn't have internet back then. As far as I know. And so it was really, really awkward, and he didn't show me any pictures. And I also went to a hypnotist. Now, I hypnotized really well. He told me I did really well hypnotizing. But after being under for a little while, he said, so, Barbara, why do you wake up at 3 a.m. every morning? And, there was supposed to be some huge revelation right there. The reason was supposed to come out. And there was nothing. It was blank. And I remember crying right then because it was scary. How was I going to solve no reason? How can you solve that? I really felt like there was no hope. But he wanted me to come back, and I said, oh, baloney. I think it was $40 a session. Forget it. First one free, I think, hopefully. I tried another counselor who was quiet and mousy, and after the first hour of going over my childhood again, she said, well, I'll see you next week. And I said to her, what am I going to do for another week? What if I die during the week? I mean, it's like, I've got to wait a whole week. She didn't give me anything, I didn't tell her that. But I mean, she didn't give me tips. She didn't tell me how to solve it. I was looking for answers, and all they were doing is, poking around into my childhood. So I was feeling pretty desperate at that point. No one was helping me. I just didn't know what to do. I tried a few more organizations. Only one helped me. It was called Willpower Anonymous, and I hope I'm free to talk about it. I was going to look it up beforehand and before I did this video, and I didn't. But it was a bit scary. At least the one I was in had some like schizophrenic people in it, some like mentally ill that are just trying to hang on. So it was a little weird, but they stayed sane by using willpower. They did the usual, I am powerless without a higher power, higher spiritual power, and that even bothered me, even though I believed in God at the time, just because they made me feel so worthless and helpless and just, oh, you have to have the help of a higher power. Well, then what am I? Am I just really that trashy and just unable to do anything? It did bother me. But anyway, they taught me. This is what was helpful. They taught me that my muscles were commanded by my brain. My brain could command my muscles not to move. And that was the first helpful thing anybody really said to me. And so I repeated over and over to myself, I will not wake up at 3 a.m. I will not wake up at 3 a.m. and eat. I will not wake up at 3 a.m. And lo and behold, I did not wake up at 3 a.m. So I usually use that as advice. Anybody wants to try something like that. To me, it also might have been a slight slowing down, a bit of a meditation type thing. I don't know, but it did work for me. That was one thing that's solved. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart enough to use it on all my other eating problems, commanding. I only used it on that one thing. That was the only thing I commanded my muscles for. But how did I solve the rest of the problems? Well, this is why I can't write a book about it and become rich and famous. I think it's an individual solution type thing. I can't really give you a reason also because mine was just kind of weird. It's like, for me, 3 things happened at the same time, which I think broke the habit. And as you can see with mine, it was very, very much a habit. Number 1 was just burning out, and the desire not to do it started to become stronger than the desire to do it. So that instant gratification thing actually was getting to be, it's like it really wasn't that gratifying anymore as well, I think. So I had the desire to do something different, to concentrate on something else. I was just tired of all of that. That's the honest truth. So it really wasn't me overcoming anything. I was just tired of it. Number 2 was, of course, the willpower technique. And number 3, during that time, I made a complete move and a complete change. I had had a lot of changes before in places, but this time I moved to Atlanta, Georgia. And, everything was totally different. And I had to get a job downtown. And so I just had so many issues that I was dealing with, so many things that were so different, that I think it was enough to break the habit. I know this is all very anticlimactic to hear that that's what broke the habit. But actually one day I just woke up and I was normal. I was just normal. I just woke up and, I never ever again had the problem. It's like something reset. And I did realize that I actually had been afraid to eat normally. I was, for so long I was afraid that I would not get to eat the things I wanted to eat, or that I would be hungry, or that I would get fat. I just had all these fears about food, and instead I just all of a sudden was normal. So it seems kind of sad after all of these years that I was doing all that vomiting for no reason. And in 27 years there has not been one slip up at all. There hasn't. I just all of a sudden wasn't bulimic anymore and I was a normal person. It's just so strange. But to this day, I do have dreams about it occasionally. I'll dream that I'm overeating, and either somebody catches me in the dream, or I'm afraid somebody's going to catch me, and I'm so disappointed with myself. It's an awful dream to be so disappointed. Oh no, it's happening again. And then you wake up and you're so glad that it was just a dream. So I think that might stay with me for life, that kind of thing. It has been 27 years, but I still feel that my relatives and friends will never 100% trust me to be sane, and I will always be a step lower than they are. And that could be my imagination, but that's just how I feel. These are the consequences of this type of thing. Every picture I see of myself during that period, everybody else sees maybe a nice picture of me and my dad, or me and my girlfriend. That's not grammatically correct, but anyway. What I see is I was bulimic during that time. Oh gosh, that was the time period I was bulimic. There's always a cloud that hangs over that time period, and always something that you remember. That's what you remember from that time period more than anything else. Every dentist you see, ooh, do you grind your teeth? Wow, they're really worn down. Wow, there's almost no enamel on them. And these, by the way, are redone. Bulimia wears down your teeth and it takes the enamel off of it. You don't want to do that. It's really expensive. I had to save money to get these redone. There were a couple reasons I got it redone. For one thing, I wouldn't smile much because they were chipped here and worn. Worn down because of the bulimia, chipped because I fell and they were so weak that they got chipped. And I thought that they were a constant reminder. They were a reminder to me, and I thought other people will glance at me and go, "Oh, she's bulimic," or or she was. They wouldn't say she was. They would think I still was. I think I still am. So I wanted them fixed. Plus, the top part had gray because of antibiotics. There was a gray band. So I got them fixed, and I tell you, it is the nicest thing in the world to be able to smile. Smiling's my favorite. Smiling's my favorite. I just love it. I love being able to smile again after all that time. Oh my gosh. So, the consequences were I couldn't smile for a long time. What else? For a long time, I didn't even think about it. I blocked it out of my mind, the whole bulimic thing, because I was afraid that if I even thought about it, I might get back into it. I mean, there's so many fears involved. Just a little while ago, I started thinking about it, and I thought, I'm fine, and I can think about it. I can analyze it. But I don't want to spend much time on it because it's just not my thing. I'm not really into either food issues. I don't want to be one of those people who talks about it all the time. I've got other things that I'm interested in. One insight that I recently had was that I knew when I was bulimic back then that I was failing at life back then, and I was disappointing myself and my parents and my friends, and this bulimia was actually a way to fail and use the bulimia not only as an excuse but as a diversion from facing that I was failing at life. At the time, I'd rather fail with a serious problem than just fail as a mediocre person in normal life. I mean, that bulimia was serving some kind of a weird purpose, keeping me from facing my life, keeping me from dealing with my real life problems. So I think that had something to do with it. I mean, that might be the only emotional issue in a way that I can think of. But what could it have been otherwise? Or also, could it have been a brain chemical imbalance? Possibly. A depression? A little bit. A phobia? Yes. Control and compulsive issue? Definitely. Control issues, compulsive issues. I am very compulsive. A habit? Definitely. I'm very habit-oriented. A semi-spoiled person who was taking advantage of an easy life. I hate to admit it, but yes, that's the truth, although I did not realize it at the time. I didn't know. You don't realize that you're spoiled when you're raised that way, that you had an easy life. An avoidance technique, definitely. Can I look back and say that I am proud of the person that I was? Absolutely not. Although I did some good things and I worked hard when I was in a job, after college was over, I cannot say that I was a good person. I cannot say that I respected myself. I cannot say that I even liked myself. I certainly wasn't proud of myself. Does it scare me that I might be right on the edge of a disorder? Or, it's like, I feel like maybe I'm just like right here on the edge of sanity all the time, just barely staying over the edge. I'm just barely sane, you guys. That's how I think, because I did not plan for that to happen to me when I was young. I didn't plan to fall off and have this disorder. It could happen again. It could be something else. You walk around with kind of like that fear, like it could happen again. The only difference is I had no defenses back then. I had not lived through anything. I, since then, have lived through a lot of hard times. I have lived through a lot of struggles, a lot of conflict. I've learned how to stand up for myself. I've got some defenses built up now. So I think I'm going to be okay. I really do. And, I value what life I have left, and I want to live it healthy without being, setting unrealistic expectations for myself. I'm not going to be a crazed nut or something, Let's see. Is there anything else? Oh, what I would tell somebody else who is going through it. Check yourself into a hospital if somebody offers to pay for it. My parents wanted to pay for it, and I refused because I didn't want them gauging how much food. I pictured that hospital food with ugh. And I didn't want that, and I didn't want anybody controlling my life, and I didn't want to be in a hospital setting. But you know what? It could have been over with so quickly if I had gone to a hospital and gotten help. So I would say do that. Check out the internet. My gosh, there's got to be a lot of self-help groups. People know about this now. Everybody knows about this. They didn't know about it back then. So the therapy, I wish I had stuck with it. I should have stuck with that little mousy lady and just talked out my problems, because something might have come out. I might have had some kind of insight. I think therapy would have been a good idea, really. They do have more self-help groups that you could get into as well. Don't wait until the next meal to do something about it the next day. Don't wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow will come, you'll be binging, and you'll wait until tomorrow. Every day you'll be waiting until tomorrow. So get some help. That is honestly the best advice I could give. Because I want you, and look at yourself. See if you respect yourself. See if you like yourself. Maybe try some meditation. Try to turn off that instant urge thing that, try that. Try the willpower technique. Why not? I think that's about it. I do want to tell you that I am proud of myself now. I like myself now. I think I'm a good person. I think I do good in the world, and I try to do good in the world. I signed so many petitions, it's ridiculous, to help people. And I hope that you learned something from this if you have any problems. And, I just hope you enjoyed it, too. I hope you enjoyed listening to my past problems 27 years ago. Keep that in mind. Yes, that's when it ended. And ever since then, everything's been great.